Hey everybody, Lisa Haverly here, Nature Superhero Network. Hello, hello. I'm back to share a little bit about what I'm working on and have been intensely working on for the last September, October, November, now into December, almost 4 months. Wow. And it's not done yet. So some of you may know this. I don't remember where I have shared what I'm doing and with whom always, but thank you here for listening. And if you already have this information, you can pass. But I thought I would share it here on the YouTube channel about this framework that I'm developing. And what's a framework, right? I didn't know really what I was creating, but I'd landed on calling it a framework. It could be maybe an approach. But I'm calling it a framework right now. And a framework is, for me anyway, and perhaps you have other thoughts on this, for me a framework is a foundation. It's a foundation rich in evidence and theory that guides us into what our clinical practice can look like, okay? And so what I have done is taken a deep dive into the literature, bringing in 3 things that are really important to me. The first thing that's really important to me is bringing in the holistic approach, okay? And that is supporting the mind, body, and spirit. And so I draw from information from Holistic OT. And my mentor in that regard is Emmy Badness. And she doesn't live that far from me, and I have taken classes from her, and it's been quite a few years now. Probably, I just talked with her the other day, 6 or 7 years maybe since I took a course from her. But really bringing in that mind-body integrative kind of practice piece of things. And so that's a part of this framework. And then I really value the sensory integrative frame of reference and supporting children with their sensory motor capacities. And of course, I do have mentors in that regard that have influenced me. And I'll just name some here because if you haven't heard of these people, you should really seek them out. Amazing, talented, gifted people that share their knowledge so eloquently. So I'll name a couple here. Tracy Stackhouse. Just doing wonderful work in supporting therapists and understanding why we do what we do with the development of her clinical reasoning tool. And so Tracy Stackhouse, if you don't know her, amazing work, okay? And my other one that I have taken so many courses from is Kim Barthel. And she's an OT that really specializes in trauma-informed support and practice, and being aware of the impact childhood adversity can have on development. But she also really takes a strong neurobiological perspective in understanding the components of the brain and the neural networks that impact behavior and function. So amazing work. So I'm drawing from that field as well. From the field of sensory integration, from the field of trauma-informed practices and supports, and then of course our very traditional occupation focus, doing what's meaningful for our clients and what matters to them as far as writing goals or bringing in, activities that have meaning for them. And then, of course, this is wrapped in mental health, kind of community-based OT. And so I'm bringing all of that together. So you can imagine how massive this is beginning to become. And so I take all these pieces. I discuss the important components of these ways of providing service and these, different frames that we bring to the table, these focuses of mental health, trauma, sensory integration, holistic, integrative practices, because to me, that really speaks to the mind, body, and spirit support. That really is foundational to our work as occupational therapists. And so with that, then, I look at the evidence for all of those pieces, And then I spend a fair amount of time of looking at why the context of nature. And so I bring in a significant amount of evidence to support nature being a beautiful context to provide therapy within. And sometimes we talk about nature as being the setting. Sometimes nature is the modality. But regardless, we are looking at collaborating with nature to meet goals and to move through this therapeutic process. And then what I move on, once we kind of dive into this rich therapy theoretical foundation, we move into more about intervention and what that can look like from a very individual one-to-one basis to what does it look like to support populations or groups of children, and giving you lots of different ideas, but really tying it together with how this can look in nature, so that you can see what it can look like, but also bring in your creativity and what you're passionate about. So it's a launching pad to really take this information and create your own. So I feel strongly that we are all called to use our own gifts to make a difference. And that's even separate from this nature context. So thinking about what lights you up and who your ideal client is really important in this process of finding your own purpose. And we talk about understanding the roots of a child and how that comes together with our own professional roots. And as we move through the therapeutic process and we arrive at supporting a person's resilient capacity. So at some point, I'm going to go through the different concepts of this framework, but we start with the roots and we end with building resilient capacity. And what vibrates and reverberates out from resilient capacity are those outcomes of ease, of joy, of function, right? Or meaningful activity, purpose. All of those pieces come together once we establish resilient capacity. So there's more that I could go into, but hopefully that gives you a glimpse of this framework that I'm working on, hoping to launch it late January, early February. That's my goal. So hopefully you can stick around. I'll be sharing more pieces about it as I move through this process of really reflecting on all that I have done and all that is possible for you. All right, everybody. See you down the road. Thanks so much for listening.